This is the one everyone wants, right? They want to make 100, 150K, 200K.
My name is Anish Abbasi. I'm an investor and an agent based in Hamilton. Over the last year, I've worked on over 10 projects, including 4 of my very own, where I worked as the agent to purchase and resell the projects, and I self-managed my own rentals. In this video, I'm going to go over the different levels of renovations and the risks and profits associated with each type of project. This is based on real deals and actual numbers between Hamilton and GTA. So I'll break down the numbers where you can see what's happening in the current market, where there's a lot of uncertainty and people are really worried about making numbers work.
Okay, so just going over the 3 different rental types. This is me just breaking it down in a very simple way, right? There's cosmetic flips, there's mid-size flips. A lot of times where we're doing permits, it's kind of more structural stuff, adding more plumbing, mechanical stuff, moving things around like in the house, like in terms of the layout. And then there's massive rentals where you're stripping everything out back. You take everything back to the studs. You're doing new drywall insulation, windows, roof. It's pretty much a new house you're building. Now, in all the markets, you can pretty much do this. Typically what I find is this works in more sub-markets. We're in the greater Toronto area. So in Hamilton, you can actually do more so cosmetic flips. Like I've done this in bigger cities like Mississauga too, but you have to be very careful. It's just that the spread for what you're buying and the amount of cost you have and the rental versus the resale isn't usually that big on cosmetic flips. So if you're in a market where the purchase price is huge, it's a little tricky. But also, a lot of times the spread is so small that if market changes, etc., can also wipe those out. So that's the risk with cosmetic. The pro is you're typically buying deals that are safer. It's a 1 month, 2 month rental. Like this one, for example, I bought for $590 in Mississauga, which is a very low price point for a condo townhouse in Meadowvale. Spent $45K, resold for $750. I literally did this deal, and this is lucky. I'm not saying this is normal. The execution wasn't lucky, but how quickly we sold it, the people closed in 1 month. We did a rental, started in July, got it listed by, I believe it was right at September, beginning of September, like right before, late August, early September. They closed in October. It sold in 2 days, right? So 3 months. Now, usually this will probably take 4 to 6 months, but very quick kitchen, bathroom, that kind of a thing, right? Now, if you buy at a higher price point, 800K, and you're doing a 50K rental and your after repair value is $1 million, just because you have such high closing costs and resale costs and financing, these margins get compressed. So even though your rental was light, bigger purchase prices will kill the margins on those smaller kind of, right, when you have flips. So you'll have to do bigger deals that have like much bigger spread. And I'll go into that in a second. But something like this, you can usually make like the 50K. I would say I made about 50 on this. Closing cost financing resale. Next step up is you're doing a lot of times a common one that fits this category, like a mid-size rental, is you're doing like finished basement or like a legal basement, and upstairs you're doing more like cosmetic. And by cosmetic, one thing I want to highlight is I'm not talking about just changing the floor and painting and changing cabinet head. The market in Ontario, in the busier markets, is too savvy and has too much of a higher standard for you to do something like that. Cosmetic means new kitchen, new bathroom, painting floor, new trim, new doors. Just pay like will not work. I know that works in some areas in some markets, especially in the US. That's not the case here. People are too savvy, and right now in this kind of market, they won't allow that, right? They're not gonna accept that. So back to this, like you're typically doing a full kind of in the basement or certain part of the house. Maybe you're opening up a wall, lay out a little bit. You're still doing the new kitchen, new bath, everything. A lot of times the rental might be double what it is here. Like if you're doing 40, 60K, you might do 100, 120K. Like a legal basement, for example, could run anywhere from 70 to 90K. And upstairs it can vary depending on what you're doing. And the spread on something like this. So this is an example deal we got in Hamilton for $585 for a client, detached. You spent about 120K, legal basement, plus doing upstairs, resold for $840. These are all in the 2025, 2026 markets, right? So we're currently in a very depressed market, so I just want to show people what deals look like. Then the spread on a deal like this is much bigger than a deal like this. Like this, we're from $590 to $750, on this we're from $585 to $840, but the rental cost is double, right? But the profit here, you can actually make like 80K, whereas there you make like 50K, right? That's the trade-off. But longer timeline, probably doing permits. It's just a little bit more work. Now, something like this is the one everyone wants, right? They want to make 100, 150K, 200K. This is your just huge project. The only sell for 1.5, like literally 2x of whatever you bought it for. It's usually in a city like Toronto or maybe Mississauga, and it's a massive rental. Rental costs are the same everywhere. So with these old properties in the big cities, the thing is there's no land there, so people can't build. They have no option but to buy, but they want to buy great properties, and they don't have a lot of options because not a lot of people can spend 250, 300K to reno, especially in this market. People don't want to. So when it comes up, when it comes up, you can actually get it sold relatively quickly. Like we'll see deals move for 1.5 to 2 million all the time in like a week in Toronto, right? In desirable areas like central Toronto, closer to downtown, East York, certain areas that are more desirable. So the trade-off here is you're buying for close to $1 million, something that's like a full gut job, and the timeline can be like 6 to 8 months or more. You're doing permits 100%, doing new roof, mechanical, everything, and things can go wrong, and you can have cost overruns, but you have such a big spread, right? Like you can buy for 850K, do a rental, resell for 1.4, 1.3, right? And something like that, like that's like a 500K, 450, 500K spread. And after all your closing costs, resale, financing, you can still walk away with 100K plus. So this is slightly off, but like I had a client do a deal for they bought around like 850, something like that. The rental was about 300K, and we resold that for 1.4. And their spread basically, even after all their closing costs, you basically walked away with a little over 150K. And right now, that same client, like they're working on something where we got it for under $1 million. They're spending about 350, 400K on the rental. It's a detached in Leslieville. And that one currently, they're looking at a resale between 1.6 to 1.7, right? So these are the only areas where you can do deals like that in Toronto because there's such a big spread. People often think that you're going to get these numbers if you focus on like sub 500K deals. The reality is if you go to even small US markets, right now, like people go to like areas like Ohio. I've spoken to operators there, and honestly, like those deals you make 20, 30K, like those are your single hits, right? You're never going to do like 200K unless you're doing like new build, like, and it's not even worth doing that in some of those areas. So to make those numbers, you're usually doing much riskier deals that are heavier, but it is doable in this market, right? It's been done numerous times. And that's the thing. I pay attention to this stuff as an agent. I look at comparable sales, know who's doing what, like in the areas. I see the flippers. I see what numbers they're doing. Yes, there are people not making very much money. Profits are more compressed than they might have been before. It's more in a rising market. In fact, in some cases, the market has dropped, right? But when you're doing the right deal, you still have enough spread where you're safe. For example, I did 4 deals in the last year and a half of my own that were flips. And I lost on one deal. It wiped out the profit of one whole other deal, but then the other 2 were still profitable. It was a net profit, and that was from something unexpected where the townhouse market changed substantially than every other market just because people now have more options to buy stuff. So they might buy a freehold house instead of a condo townhouse. People are no longer buying condos. Not that I ever invest in condo apartments, but instead of going for that, they'll just go for a condo townhouse. The guy going for the condo townhouse might go for the semi-detached because prices are more affordable. There are buyers out there, and that's one thing I want to really take home is basically there's buyers for all of these products because rates are more affordable. People are much more cautious though because they understand that the market's changed quite a bit, and they will be very picky with all these things. That's why I say you can't do a cosmetic where you literally didn't change anything, where there's obvious problems in the house. People will just not buy it. And when you go to something like this, you're scrutinized way more because people are like, we understand we live here and we want this brand new house, but it better be a brand new house. We're going to get it inspected, and if there's any problems, you better fix all of it because I'm not moving into a house where I'm paying a premium and 3 months later the floor starts coming up or there's like moisture in the basement. So everything needs to be done, right? The higher you go on trying to attain a higher profit, the more work you kind of do, the heavier of a microscope you get put under by buyers. And buyers are getting smarter and smarter every day, right? Like, it might not even be like people just have access to AI, all these tools. They can find out what's what. There's public data on what you buy your house for. Most agents can find out even if you buy it off market. So they will press you. Like, I've literally had someone ask me, can you show us pictures of what it looked like before? Because there's nothing on the MLS. And, but not that it matters. Like, we still sold it at a decent price. But this is the mindset of buyers. And something to just remember, the buyers are the ones who decide what you get. This is the thing people forget with flipping. This is the most single market like this. The ball is in the buyer's court always. What they perceive the value to be is what the value will be, right? So you can't just do something and make changes. You can do whatever you want, but if no one wants it, you're not going to get the money. In fact, it'll just sit on the market. And people get frustrated by this, but that's the name of the game, and that's why People get burnt really badly on flips. But make sure you understand this, right? They understand the market, what's valued in that market, what the buyer cycle is, what the trends in the area are. In a lot of these flips, I've advised clients to add bathrooms to stand out in competition versus other properties that are listed. That maybe they only have full bath, one half, now half. Maybe they have a basement, even like in-law suite, like a legal basement apartment. We do. In backyards and commodity just for like selling the layout, right? It's like $1,000 upgrade, but it makes a difference. Doing little things like that makes a huge difference. But you need to know in that area what's important. So make sure you work with an agent who understands that, and even your contractors. You got to understand the different level of rentals, and you need a lot of control over the cost if you're flipping. At scale, yeah, sure, you can hire a general contractor if you have enough deals with enough spread, but a lot of times it's better to self-manage certain elements. Like kitchens alone, people pay double to triple what I have paid for the exact same thing. People don't like to talk about this. A lot of people get upset with me, even my contractor when I talk about this, but we know the certain 100% you want to pay premiums for, but with flips, certain elements you need cost control over. So make sure you're working with the right people. Reach out to me if you're actively looking in the Greater Toronto area or surrounding markets. I know my numbers, and typically I'm going to recommend you an area that I understand and I know what's happening in, and build a plan around, okay, we need to buy for this. I usually do, I underwrite deals and I break down the rental, and basically we go off actual data to understand what the resale value of a property might be, right? So we have a full picture and we control what we can, right? I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'll give you a pretty good idea of what's possible, what's not, depending on the amount of capital you have to work with. So reach out to me. I'll leave my contact info below and we'll be in touch.